Hey guys, as you can tell by the title, this is going to be talking about gay marriage. Now, I'm not going to make a whole big long video, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, just a few points I want to put out there to get some people thinking about some things, because this really is a topic you'd probably talk about for 2 hours straight. First thing we have to understand is marriage itself. Where does marriage come from? Marriage is a religious institution. It was originally started by religion to symbolize the joining of two people. Now, in some religions, that's a man and a woman. In fact, a lot of religions, that's a man and a woman. There are some religions, however, that allow for different things. It can be between a man and several women, or a woman and several men, or two women, or whatever. It depends on the religion. But for the most part, yes, it is defined by most religions as between a man and a woman. Now, we also have to understand, when it comes to allowing for gay marriage, we're talking about something that's coming from a government standpoint, not a religious standpoint. Now, the government, and the whole reason that the Defense of Marriage Act was struck down is because it was determined that the government, especially the federal government, has no right to determine who can or cannot be married. There are no founding documents in our country that define what a marriage is, okay? Period. There's just not anything out there. Yes, we can look at religion and get definitions from that, and for the most part, that's where we, as a country and as individual states and as local government, has basically got its definition for what a marriage is. It's from religion, okay? And primarily that has been between a man and a woman, depending on what religion it comes from. But we're talking about, from a government standpoint, we're talking about personal freedoms and liberties. And when it comes to personal freedoms and liberties, okay, a government, whether it's state government, local government, or federal government, cannot grant certain exceptions or certain privileges to one set of people and not another set of people, because that's discrimination, okay? That is disallowing certain rights, okay? Even if they're rights that some people don't think are very important. Things like tax breaks and that kind of thing, okay? This is why this issue is a big deal, because we, as people who support the Second Amendment and support the Constitution, understand very well about restricting freedoms and liberty, and we are very pro-freedom and liberty. And in doing that, regardless of what your personal moral beliefs are, you should also be in support of the government not discriminating against one group of people and restricting their personal freedoms and liberty and what they believe is important to them, while not restricting other people. Now, an example of this is people get married and they have certain privileges, they have certain rights, they have a certain status when it comes to the government. The government looks at them a certain way, gives them certain tax benefits and all kinds of things, spouse benefits, and if somebody dies and that kind of thing. Whereas two people go in, let's say two men or two women or whoever, go in and get a civil union, okay, they join together in a civil union, which is also something that some states allow, okay. They do not necessarily get all the same benefits, and they also don't get the same respect in a lot of ways when it comes to whether it be insurance companies and all kinds of things like that. Now, that is discriminatory, okay? Basically what it boils down to is, as a government entity, whether you're talking your local justice of the peace, whether you're talking your state, whether you're talking the federal government, they cannot discriminate. If they allow and are willing to perform marriages for one group of people, they have to do it for another. Now, a church, completely different. We have a separation of church and state for a reason. Churches are private religious entities, and they have the right to say, we will only marry men and women. But keep in mind that because there are churches out there that are willing to marry two men or two women, or a man and 10 women, okay, that the government cannot discriminate and choose who they are willing to marry. It just goes against all logic and all freedom and liberty. Now, me personally, I understand how a person can have a certain set of morals that doesn't go along with what other people want to do. I get that. But at the same time, we have to understand, if we truly believe in personal freedom and liberty, we cannot be the ones that say, I want my personal freedom and liberty, but I want the government to discriminate and restrict other people's personal freedoms and liberties. We cannot on one hand say one thing and then do something else. If you truly support your own personal freedom and liberty, whether it's guns, whether it's religion, whether it's freedom of speech, or all of the above, you have to be willing to say, hey, look, I may not agree with it, but you as the government don't have a right to tell these people, consenting adults that are doing no one any harm, that they can't enjoy the same privileges as other people. Now, I don't care if the government wants to stop performing marriages altogether. They can just say, you know what, if you want to get married, you go to a church. If you want a civil union, you come to us. But it has to be equal among everybody. In other words, the church can offer marriage to a man and a woman only, but the government cannot offer only marriage to a man and a woman and then say, well, if you're two men or two women or whoever, you can only have a civil union. They can say, look, we're only going to do civil unions for everybody, and we're going to allow the same privileges to those people as we do to people who are married in a church. but they cannot be discriminatory. It goes against everything our country was founded on, and we as people who believe in freedom and liberty in the Constitution should be against it at all costs, because ultimately it's just giving the government more power to control people's lives, regardless of what your personal moral beliefs are.